Okay, we're going to be talking today about preventing and resolving conflict in the church. And toward the end of the talk, I'm going to lay out some very specific ideas on how you can build what we call a peacemaking or a peace sowing team in your church. And I'll elaborate on this more as we go along, but it's basically the idea of training people in the body who are available to do training and conflict coaching and even mediation. And it's in the same spirit as Exodus 18, when Moses basically realized he couldn't solve all the conflict in the community of faith, and he had to train and delegate a lot of that to other people. So toward the end of the talk, I'll be talking about specifically how you could go about building that. But I want to spend the bulk of our time demonstrating what a team like that can do, the kinds of principles that can be applied by you as leaders in your churches, but also things you can teach to others so that you're not carrying this responsibility entirely on your own. Right now, today, I'm assuming you are experiencing some of the same things in your churches that we've experienced in the church where I serve as an elder. This has been the most stressful year of church leadership I've known in my life. And I've been in ministry for 38 years. Between COVID, the racial tensions that have erupted in our country, and I know there's a lot of them in Europe as well, economic pressure, people losing jobs, families having to try to educate their children at home. This has been an incredibly stressful time. And what we found as leaders in our church was we could not please everybody. No matter what we did, somebody was going to be very unhappy with us. And we spent a lot of our time just addressing criticism and condemnation from people who've been members of the church for a long time. But we're very unhappy about our enforcing or not enforcing, complying, not complying with government directions, and all the ways we're working out. We spent hundreds and hundreds of hours doing that. So there was a lot of stress, and that kind of stress inevitably presents some danger along the way. And certainly we had people that were so unhappy they left our church this year. And that's always a sad thing for a church leader, a shepherd, to see sheep wandering off. But what we saw this year was you can turn those dangerous, stressful situations actually into opportunities. Opportunities, number one, to grow in our dependence on Christ. I really came face to face with my weakness as a Christian leader this year. In good times, you can sort of just press through on your own strengths and gifts. But when you have that kind of problem, boy, we really need to see our need for the Lord. We were able as leaders in our church to identify sins, pride, impatience, judgmental attitudes, self-pity. A lot of things we as elders had to actually confess to the Lord and to one another and pray for. And then, of course, the opportunity to minister to our people. And even though some people were not satisfied with choices and decisions we made, those who have stayed are now seeing with gratitude that the elders actually shepherded them through a very dangerous year. And now we're starting to see that we actually built a lot of credibility and trust with many of our people as we walk through that year. So there's opportunities, and those opportunities continue to be in front of us, even if some of the immediate and unusual pressures diminish. Just normal life means that there can be unhappy people. So what we want to do is really figure out, how do we live out the promise of James 3:18? It says, the peacemakers who sow in peace raise a harvest of righteousness. And there's a lot that's implicit in that promise from James, but one of those is a constant biblical theme that the Christian life, and particularly the Christian leader's life, is a life of sowing, nurturing, and reaping. We cannot just think we can do something right now and see an immediate harvest coming from it. And so that takes farsightedness. A farmer has to realize that he's going to work really hard to till his soil, plant the seed, irrigate and water, keep the weeds out, and many, many months later actually see the harvest. So it takes some foresight and some commitment, even when you don't see immediate results. And so that's the principles that we talked about today are going to be things you invest today for a harvest down the road. I want to walk through just a few of the basic principles that are built into our training material, built into biblical peacemaking and relationships. And there's quite a long blog on our website, and the citation is at the bottom of your handout. It's our URL, rw360.org / and then 20 ways. And that article is a very detailed article elaborating on some of the things I will talk about more briefly today. So they're key principles, they're explained, and then there's actually links to stories, illustrations that really unpack what it is. So if you want to go into more detail on any of the principles I talk about today, just download that blog and you'll get a lot more information. But one of the principles I want to start off with is just something that's so simple and yet is so powerful. And it's something we call the golden result. If you keep this in mind, anytime you're dealing with conflicted people, it'll help you enormously. And the golden result is a corollary to the golden rule. The golden rule, of course, is do to others what you would have them do to you. The golden result is other people will usually treat you the way you treat them. Just burn that into your mind. It is something I've seen again and again and again. As a mediator, I often sit down with people who are in serious conflict, often lawsuits with millions of dollars at stake. And when we first sit down, most people's attitude is an adversarial attitude, basically saying, I'm going to tell you all the ways that I'm right and that you're wrong. And that's the starting point in most of those cases. And as soon as one party takes that position, guess what? The other person takes that position. So pretty soon, all we have is people pointing the finger at the other person, trying to elaborate how wrong they are. And through the conciliation process, what we're trying to do is help people live out biblical principles of relationships and peacemaking, one of which is, before you try to take the speck out of your brother's eye, get the log out of your own eye. Take responsibility for what you've done. And I wish I had kept a detailed record over the years of all the times I've seen this dynamic played out. People come into a mediation blaming the other person, convinced of their own righteousness and the other person's wrong. At some point, by the work of the Holy Spirit and the guidance of the conciliators, one person changes that focus and says, I can see how I started this thing. And here's what I've done to contribute. And just a completely different attitude in terms of really, truly seeing their own fault. I would say 80 or 90% of the time that happens, the response of the other person is, well, now hold on a minute. It's not all your fault. I did this and this. It's just this 180-degree shift. So when we blame other people, they will blame us. When we take responsibility, confess our sins, our wrongs, our contributions, the vast majority of the time, other people will do the same thing. And what I want to do is I'm going to use a couple of videos to illustrate how this happens. I'm going to use two videos. They're about 3-4 minutes long. The first video just shows how easily a conflict goes downhill, how quickly a conversation can become very hostile. And what you'll see is these two people start treating each other the way they are being treated, and they're going in a negative direction. After the first video, we'll stop. I'll give just a couple of evaluation points on it, and then we're going to go into a second video, exactly the same scenario, except they handle it in a completely different way. And you'll see this contrast and how different the results are.
Hey there.
Hey.
So I'm trying to decide what to do for vacation this year.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. What do you think we should do?
Good question. I was thinking this summer it would be a good idea if we went to visit my parents. We haven't seen them in a while.
No, the problem is that's not a break for me. Yeah, your parents are hard work, especially your mom. I want to relax. I want to go to the beach.
I mean, seriously, if we don't go see them, they can't come see us. They can't travel. It'll be another year before the kids see them.
I get 2 weeks off for vacation. That's it.
I'm aware.
I want to use it to relax. That's it. I want to take it easy. Work's been hard this year. I want to go to the beach. What's the problem?
Yeah, but we went to the beach last year because of the same reason.
Yeah, and we got to relax. We got to take it easy. That's what I'm talking about.
That's not what I meant. And you know that. Yes, the beach was fun. We all had a great time, but my father is not going to be around forever. And I don't want to feel like I missed this opportunity to spend time with him. I don't know why we always have to go through this. I wish you could just think about what I need or what the kids need, and it wasn't just always about you.
Really?
Really.
So I'm selfish. I'm working 60 hours a week, okay? To pay for all these vacations, all this stuff that we do, so you can make all the decisions? Really? Is that how it's gonna work? I'm just some big ATM. I'm gonna throw money all over the place so you can make all the decisions. Yeah, go ahead and call me selfish. That makes a lot of sense. I'm selfish.
I cannot take this anymore. Like taking care of the house and the kids, like that's not a real job. You know, and I work part-time. I pull my share. If it's that important to you to have a break, you should take one. Go to the beach. Call your golf buddies. Do whatever you want. And I'll take the kids and we'll go see my dad.
I want to take a family vacation. Family vacation. I want to see my kids. I want to spend time with my kids.
Well,
care about this family as much as you care about your parents. That's what you need to be doing. We're right here. Us.
That is so unfair. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
You know what?
You're right.
You do whatever you want. I'm going to bed.
You do that. I'm going to watch a movie.
Please do not do that.
Good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night. Why does it always have to be this hard? Whatever.
We have a lot of people who watch that and they tell me it seems like you had a camera in my kitchen in my home. Many people relate to the dynamics there. Starts off as just where we can go for vacation, and then it escalates into an increasingly intense and acrimonious conflict. And what you see is a lot of reflecting. As one person's voice goes up, the other voice goes up. As one person blames and accuses and judges the other person, they get the same response back. When she pulls away by going to bed and he pulls away by watching a movie, they're just mirroring each other through the entire conversation. And that's how many, many conflicts turn out, with people totally estranged, emotions have run wild, they've said things they regret, but the damage is done. And so I want to show you a second video. You'll notice it starts off in exactly the same way, but then it comes to an intersection, basically, where the people go down a completely different road. And I want you to see if you can identify the moment where things change. It's both with what somebody says, but even more significantly, it's the tone of voice. We communicate not only with our actual words that we say, but the tone of voice, the body language, how we communicate. So see if you can pick up the moment where this thing goes in a completely different direction.
Hey there.
Hey.
So I'm trying to decide what to do for vacation this year.
Oh, yeah?
What do you think we should do?
Good question. I was actually thinking that this year we could go see my folks. We haven't seen them in a while. Well, what do you think?
I think we should go to the beach again this year. I want to relax. We had a good time last year. It's fun. If we go see your folks, your mom. Work's been hard this year. This has been just a tough year, and we go to your parents, I won't be able to relax. I want to go to the beach.
I know, okay? I know it's been a rough year, especially because of work, and I know you need to relax, and if my mom's around, you can't always do that, but you know how sick my dad is. I mean, I really thought this would be the perfect opportunity for our whole family to go and spend some quality time with him while we can.
I know how important it is to see your dad. And I know we don't have much more time with him. All right, well, I wonder if we should do that. Okay, yeah. Yeah, let's do that.
Well, I don't want you to not get the break that you need. I mean, the beach was great for our whole family last year. I just wish you got longer than 2 weeks.
What if you take the kids and you go see your folks? You
But
take
the
them for a
whole
week.
point-
No, hold on. And then the last couple days I come up, and then after that we can take the kids to the beach for a week. I mean, it's kind of choppy, but I think it works.
Yeah, I think it sounds great.
Okay, you get to spend quality time with your dad. We get to take the kids to the beach and relax, and I only have to see your mom for a couple of days. As long as you're good for being away a few weeks, then it's good for everybody.
Yes, I think this sounds like the perfect solution. This is really important to me. I appreciate it. Hey, I'm gonna head up to bed. You coming?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, you saw the same situation, the same issue evolving. Initially, each person trying to communicate what their interests, their desires were, but right from the beginning, they were trying to reflect back to the other person. I know this is important to you. You haven't seen your dad. I know work has been stressful. Still not sure which direction it's going to go. And then finally, there's a long pause, and the husband says, I know this is important to you. And his voice is compassionate, it's tender, it's gentle. And his wife follows in exactly the same way. Yeah, but you need some rest. So now they're starting to basically live out Jesus' profound teaching, Matthew 7:12. Always do what you would like the other person do to you. Each of you do what the other person you'd like the person do to you. And when we treat other people the way we want to be treated, it's amazing how often they reciprocate by doing the same thing. And now they start moving into the direction of a problem-solving process. They're basically living out another principle in Philippians 2. Each of you should look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others. And if we can work that principle, both the golden rule and the idea of looking out for other interests into our families and our churches, where people are as eager to understand and look out for the other person's interests as they are their own, that's where they're working together to solve a problem in a way that both of them can say, this is good, this is helpful. So it's just a simple example of an application of a very simple biblical principle we often hear, but many of us have not developed the habit of living it out day to day. The one other thing I just want to quickly say in this section about this idea of living out these biblical principles is the idea of bringing into every conflict situation the gospel. And one of the greatest ironies I see as a Christian is I work almost exclusively within Christian settings, churches, ministries, Christian-owned businesses, families, Christian families. And it's amazing that even though I'm dealing with regenerate people who were saved by the gospel, when we get into conflict, we all tend to just go horizontal, which we sort of put God aside. And now we're in this mode of, hey, here's what I've done right. Here's why I'm innocent. Here's where I'm the one that's doing the things that should. And here's why you're wrong. And it just turns in this horizontal conversation. We're focusing on ourselves and the other person. When we start thinking and remembering again about the gospel, what is the significance of the fact that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, died on the cross to pay for my sins and was resurrected to life to give me a new life and to begin this transformation process, this sanctification process in me? When we start thinking about that, we call that going three-dimensional. I'm thinking about myself, the other person, but most importantly about God. And I wish we had time just to focus in on this one concept of always bringing the gospel into a situation. It's a big part of what we cover in our online course, Discovering Relational Wisdom, and also the new peacemaking course we're bringing online in a month or so. But you'll hear me talking about that a lot today, is how do we actually live out the gospel and the grace, the mercy, the kindness, the other focus, the willingness to sacrifice, all of those things, forgiveness in it. So we'll talk about that a lot, but the more that I've just found in hundreds and hundreds of cases of mediation, when I can get people focused back on Christ, the significance of what he has done for us in his sacrifice, his example, his promises, his commands and teaching, when we get that focus again, get our eyes back on Jesus, it's amazing how quickly then people can move toward good solutions. The place I learned to start bringing the gospel most effectively was actually with my children. My wife and I homeschool, well, my wife homeschooled our kids, and I call homeschooling accelerated sanctification for mothers. When you're with those little sinners 24/7, I tell you, every sin in everybody's heart comes out. And I played the role often as the principal. When things got out of hand in the classroom, I was the one that came down and had to deal with it. And there's a story in that handout about how the first time I really saw the power of bringing the gospel to my 12-year-old daughter. And it was a life-changing moment for our relationship and really the ministry, because I began using that principle even with church leaders, is when they were sharing a story about a conflict, we talked first about what difference does the gospel make? And I never cease to be amazed. I'm in a room with ordained pastors, seminary trained pastors, elders who really know God's word well. And I'll just throw out the question. So what difference does the gospel make in this situation? And I just get this blank look, and they're just going, wow, we hadn't even thought about that. And say, well, let's think about that. And we start really thinking, and it changes the conversation. So I can't emphasize that point too much.